So they bought a planet.
There you go. Super pretty. So that was part of the savanna that you saw earlier. The more common view is that. So that's sort of after. But yeah, so again, the planet itself was a super Earth, rocky core, or rocky world with metal core, magnetic field.
Everything you want to look for when you're buying a planet.
Yeah,
really.
If you're out looking right now, that's what you want. Required very little terraforming to be habitable, so just kind of adjusting the atmosphere to make it a little bit more breathable, as well as kind of seeding some of the plant life that you saw there.
Yeah, as part of keeping like the terraformed engine.
Sweet, it's back. So most likely the place you will kind of start off when you land is TEASA Spaceport, which is very pretty. And yeah, it's basically, the idea is, again, like that notion that everything in Loreville is owned by Hurston in some capacity. So you might see some familiar names of stores that you know and love, but those are franchises that are owned by Hurston Dynamics who are just using them. You will need to go through the transit system, which was a very, very exciting thing to show off today, and we're very proud about. Because yes, it's actually a train system. You have to ride the subway. And again, it's sort of the first playing with like kind of permanent, residences. So, a lot of really cool kind of thought and tech has gone into this type of thing, because there is that, that push for the persistence of I can have a messy apartment type of thing. And so this would be sort of your hab. So this is very different than like the easy habs that you go to, which are more kind of temporary hotel type accommodations. This would be something that would be technically yours. And Square, which is our sort of main common area of the workers area. Yeah, so this is where you see a lot of the workers. Obviously, there was a lot of kind of crap floating in the air, which was some of the sort of toxins and whatnot. And you also saw a lot of dudes with guns, which we'll get into. The bar of Loreville was a place called Viola's, which was going to be this named after a Hurston. Super, like very stuffy, kind of like, uncomfortable, unwelcoming place with a very snooty bartender. But in talking with design and art, they were sort of this thing about like, they wanted to make it more kind of worker friendly, and it ended up being she's a real fun. You got to meet one of our new mission givers here. Is a scrapyard. Basically, it's just a kind of a junkyard, kind of the equivalent of like a dumper's depot type deal. And we'll kind of get into a Clovis a little bit later. But this is where you would go if you...
massive city gates.
Yes.
So again, on this tone of control and oppression, and that's very thematic to Hurston, is we have these walls that surround the entire city. And even to get into the city, approaching, and this was kind of fun because we didn't only consider the approach of what it was like to get in a vehicle, it was also about what
you come across in Hurston. So again, building the kind of the environments and stuff like that is really cool, and is really coming a long way, but how the people interact and the dynamics between them is where we get kind of a lot of our fun kind of story moments. So you're familiar with the guy with the plastic bag on his head. And to reiterate, Chris is saying, do not cosplay this. Be very careful. But the workers obviously are a very important part of Hurston's lifeblood because they are the ones who are basically, making them the money. So part of the idea with these guys, we worked with the character team on developing a kind of a unique armor skin for them. And part of the idea was that these guys are sort of stormtroopery. You can't see their faces. They're very dehumanized. The idea being that they are information disposal. We'll probably not talk too much about him because the idea is that we want you to kind of go and experience him for yourself. But yeah, he was an interesting one because we worked very closely with the design team to try and, when kind of constructing these mission givers, part of it is about making a fun character and stuff like that, but also it's about creating a character who's fulfilling a kind of a design and a gameplay need, who's there to kind of send players to areas that we want them.
Noticeable is the Geisen Ready Up bag helmet. Portable environment.
Yeah, if you are a subscriber, you read we did a profile on them last month. They are, needless to say, they make dirt cheap products that are not good. The aspect of it was building the environment was actually kind of determining the voice of Hurston, which you'll see in a lot of the PA announcements as well as the billboards that are very helpful and everyone should absolutely abide by when you're there. But again, one of the things, when we're talking about a dystopian corporatocracy type thing, but one of the things that was kind of fun when coming up with these was we wanted to make it seem like you were on their team, like they were talking to you, like you were Hurston is the moons. We'll kind of skimp over this because it's...
New moons to explore. They got cool biomes. It was more about
all named after Hurston. So Ariel Hurston, the one who came up with that really awful work contract. Aberdeen Hurston, who had come up with the antimatter refinement process for the ordinance.
Magda was the one who convinced the board to buy Stanton in the first place.
And Ida Hurston was
the
rest of Stanton. Rest ops obviously has been a big topic of conversation. There is actually a portfolio on them if you really want to dig into the lore of them. But the idea being that these are sort of rest stops. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Modular, ubiquitous. They're kind of, for the time being, replacing cryastro stations with, again, that idea of engagement that when you...
These are kind of replacing the cryastro, so you would stop here, kind of stretch your legs. There'd be sort of minimal amenities and stuff like that. I don't know if anyone's ever been to Iowa 80. That was a lot of Google pictures of that being thrown around. But one of the things that it also led to was this sort of concept of Lagrange points, which was where were we going to place these things? Because they also serve a function of, if you need to replenish quantum fuel and stuff like that, where do we put these things? Because they need to be in a place that's convenient for you to be able to stop and refuel. Recco Battaglia. We have a new mission giver who is currently going to be in LEAVSDEN, but LEAVSDEN is going to switch, eventually when we switch LEAVSDEN to the AR Regency, once LEAVSDEN goes back to the system it's supposed to be in, Recco will stay. But again, going back to what we were saying earlier about how building these mission givers to not only fulfill kind of fun character moments, but also sort of new gameplay stuff, Recco